The Gifted, Episode 7, Extreme Measures. So this episode, of course, deals with what I have to assume is the beginning of Marcos going back to his old girlfriend and having to do some illegal activities. It also deals with Mirage being a pretty decent criminal, I would say. Like he's on the radar for sure of Sentinel services. And of course Lauren having to deal with that where, they get closer, they actually kiss in this episode. Ultimately that comes at the very end. But them getting a lot closer and, Reed having to kind of deal with that where it's like, seeing his face and it's like, alright, well he's a criminal and I have to tell my daughter about this and the whole father-daughter relationship deal and how that plays out. And then the added fact that he's just a straight up criminal, it adds a different element to it. So, there's a lot going on with that, but we also have the third story in this episode, or I guess technically this is like third or, fourth story, or kind of like four stories in this one. But we have Thunderbird actually trying to help Blink figure out what that road meant, and I thought that was a pretty cool storyline. And then we have our villains with Jace, who I kept calling Strucker in the last one. I don't know why I was using the family's name for like his main name, but Jace Turner is like, I don't know why I was thinking his name was Strucker too. But we have Jace working with Campbell, and we find out that Campbell has, I would assume the guy was telekinetic, and if he is, he has like some immense control because he knew like the specific part inside this woman's brain to squeeze, and I was like, that's, like, you have to like know a lot about the body to squeeze that specific part. But, we see things are, getting darker as far as like the villain storyline. And that was definitely a crazy moment. It's like, okay, we have this woman coming in and she's like, alright, you guys are doing quite a few illegal things. You don't have warrants or you don't have this or that. This is all bad. I'm trying to shut it down and I'm gonna shut it down. And then she gets shut down and I was like, I know that this is gonna be someone's power. Like as soon as she froze, I was like, well, she's dead. I thought they were just gonna kill her. But it was like, oh, it seemed like she just had a brain bleed, no big deal, she'll be fine. I was like, man, that guy's face when everyone's like going towards her, and Turner kind of looks over and he sees that it's the dude. His face was just so intense, like, I'm gonna kill her. But ultimately, he just kind of knocks her out and is like, well, she's out of the way. And it's like, it gives us a couple of weeks. Even if someone is gonna come, we still have some extra time, and that way we can finish up exactly what we're doing. And then Campbell says, I really liked your forcefulness during the meeting. And then he says Grace would have been proud. And I was like, I don't know what sort of crazy, weird, messed up mind games this dude is playing. But that was really, really messed up that he did that. And I was like, whoa. I don't know where this is leading, but it's definitely nowhere good. Because there's no reason he should have said that. But he was like, I don't know. I mean, I guess he knows that he's kind of like, basically, mentally speaking, Jason's been kind of sent back in time a little bit, so maybe he's trying to utilize that to, in a way, manipulate him to be like, your daughter would have been proud that you did that, and he knows that he's in this, he's trying to be strong, but he knows he's in this weak point because he's gone backwards to where his daughter just died again, and it's like he's trying to use that to have his ally be even more of his ally, where it's like, oh, I could totally do it this way, and then, insanely harsh, but it'll work because that's an insane emotional trigger, a lost child. And it seemed like that's the only reason he said that. It was like, good work with that, Grace would have been proud. And it's just like, whoa, that was such an effed up thing to say. I don't even know how to process that. And it was just nuts. I was like, wow, I can't believe he just did that. So that storyline seems like it's just getting darker and darker, and I can't wait to see how that plays out because they go into something really crazy where they reference Trask. So that was super awesome, where Reed's dad worked for Trask, and we're going to get more about him in the next episode. So I'm super excited for that because I think I mentioned that in the very first episode, my very first review. I was like, they talk about his dad like two separate times. There's like, I think by the second episode they mentioned his dad with the whole bowling thing. It was like, okay, it's clear his parents are divorced, his father's not dead, but they reference him like two separate times. I knew he was going to come up and be an important character later on. And it turns out that he worked with Trask, who, for anyone who's like big on X-Men, Trask is like the reason Sentinels even exist, like in the comic book. So I'm sure it'll be the same here. He's the reason Sentinel services exist. It was just, just not like the Sentinels, but Sentinel services. So I was like, all right, that's an important role for Reed's father to have without a doubt. So I thought that was great where they kind of get that little bit of information towards the end of the episode. But all the other storylines I think played out fairly decent. Everything was pretty simple across the board. I would say as far as how things concluded. I think everything was kind of simple across the board. Like nothing super drastic happened. It was just like things were either agreed upon or found out, in that way. So to go with like the simplest story, like I mentioned the villain stuff, they're just building up to do something more evil in the next episode. And then we have Lauren and Mirage. And ultimately things kind of work out with them. Lauren's really mad, and then Mirage goes to like the whole family and explains exactly, what was going on, and him the fact that he told the group what happened, because normally they kick people out if they don't tell them the truth. But they decided to let him stay, but ultimately he's just going to another area. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I can't be mad at that because, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But relationship stuff in TV shows, especially when it's like more entertaining supernatural based stuff going on, you have superpowers, or it's just a supernatural show where it's like vampires and werewolves. The relationship stuff can sometimes be good. Sometimes it can just be super annoying though. So I was like, I'm not mad in any way, shape, or form. He leaves. I'm totally fine with that. It just gets rid of, a possible whole storyline about two people getting together, which we probably already have anyway with Blink and Thunderbird, because they're just getting closer and closer with Thunderbird trying to help Blink figure out this whole road thing, which they don't really know. But we do get some backstory on Blink and the foster home she used to stay at, and technically, that's what, it wasn't the road that was actually even important. It was actually the home, and it was just like an old memory. And sadly, that random road, which they happened to find out because it was totally irrelevant, it was actually the other, what was connected to the road that was important. Unfortunately, it was still relevant in the present day, and Sentinel Services goes there, and they ended up killing, the two people who actually ran the home. So it was definitely a sad little moment. It was like, oh, that really blows. I thought it was going to have to do with, something she'd repressed, and, stuff like that. And in a way, she definitely, did, because it was just something where it was like, she never really had anything. So in a sense, she was still kind of abandoning everything that she'd had when she was younger, even though these people, took care of her. But it was just an interesting moment where she has to deal with that, where it's like, man, I had been running away for so long from everything that had happened, and then me basically not facing it led that sort of repression to, have these people be found by Sentinel Services, because for whatever reason, that's where I went back to. That was the security I went to when I was passed out, or, having my freak out, and that got these people killed that I ultimately did really care about because they cared for me. So that leads her back to the team where she's like, all right, before this wasn't really my fight, and I had no personal stake, there was nothing in it, and now it's like I kind of screwed up, and Sentinel Services really blows, and they killed people who took care of kids that couldn't even pass for human, and that was their crime, and they were killed for it. So it's like, all right, I'm in the fight for real now. So Blink is officially a part of the team. She is like got her motives, and she is good and ready to go and kill some of the bad guys. So that's, like I said, where it's like it's simple, but there's definitely good stuff in there. There's definitely relevant information, because that's gonna it's gonna change the dynamic, and I'm very curious what's gonna happen with her and Dream, because that was a big deal, or Dreamer. Because that's a big deal to have that there. Like, she left because they wouldn't really talk to her or admit what happened. So she decides to go back for a totally different reason, not because they apologized and she accepted, but because people she cared about were killed. So that tension is still kind of there. So I'm looking forward to how that's supposed to play out. And then, of course, we have kind of the overarching story with, Marcos and whatever is going to end up happening with his ex-girlfriend and how that's supposed to play out, and Polaris finding out that he was lying. So what they did in this episode I thought was kind of cool, because they really touch on him when he used to be like a bad guy, and I like that idea, because he went in, and first off, the dude who like froze everybody in place, that was an insanely cool looking power. Like, even the way visually it looked, where they were hit with like a time wave almost, and it was just like, boom, they're frozen in place. That was super cool. And then Marcos just goes in, and it's just like, boom, he set stuff on fire and everything. They have it like where he looks like full villain mode, pretty much. They were doing it in like, slow motion and stuff, and the big explosion. I wish I could remember her name, where she kissed Marcos on the cheek. Huge. It was like Power Ranger style, like at the perfect moment, just like poof, giant explosion in the background. And it was like, all right, so they do the giant explosion at the end there, and they get back in the truck, and Polaris is talking to Dreamer. It's like, okay, let's go. He can apparently take care of himself, and she confronts him at the end, and there's really no way out of it. Like, he did that one mission, but that wasn't it. Like, there's going to be a lot more to it, and they have the argument. So I am curious how that's ultimately going to end up playing out for these characters, with them having such an attachment to each other, how that strain is going to continue to affect them, just on their little pairing level. And then of course over time, Marcos being like one of the main characters, of course that's going to have an impact on everyone eventually. Like, something's going to happen where it comes down to that one moment, and then it'll have to be this big mission for the team, or this big mission that's destroying drugs or torturing somebody or something like that, which I think we'll see him do more of those little missions, and he'll start to like it more and more. And I think that's what'll kind of mess him up a little, is like he'll be regressing back to who he used to be, where it's like, this was super fun and I get paid to do it. He gets paid like a ton of money. So I don't know, I feel like that might be where it's headed. It'll be like a little mission here, a little mission there, and then as he gets addicted to it, it'll get back to that point where it's like, oh crap, I have to make a legitimately tough decision as to whether or not I want to help my mutant comrades, or just do some illegal stuff. So I think that's where we're headed. I feel like it'll take some time before it kind of ends up getting to that point where it's so drastic, but I think I personally feel like that's kind of where it's headed. But all in all, definitely a fun episode. I liked how all the characters kind of solved all their issues, or had simple confrontations. There wasn't like well, I guess technically what Marcos did was the big action sequence of the episode, but all in all, everything was kind of simple across the board. Some revelations were made. The stuff about Reed's dad, definitely a great reveal towards the end of the episode. So I'm really looking forward to more answers down that storyline, that story path. But all in all, it was simple. Revelations, conflict, resolution. Lauren and Mirage, and it's like they kiss at the end, and then he takes right off his. He gets his one kiss, and then he's like, all right, I'm out of here. So, it was very simple across the board, but it's definitely one of those episodes where, at this point, it was either the beginning of the issue, or it was like right when they find that first big clue of the issue. So it's like, this is where like the simple stuff is happening. Even if it's big, this is the simple part, and then now we're headed into some of the madness. So definitely looking forward to these things sort of coming to a head. Like I said, I'm the most interested in definitely learning more about Reed's father and him dealing with Trask and working for him for like 30 years or something crazy like that. So I can't wait to get more information on that. But all in all, really fun episode. As always, I'm really loving this show. But really good, of course. We'd love to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. And I definitely want to know what in the world is going to happen with Reed's father. Like, what are we going to learn from him? What revelations are going to be made that are going to lead them to whatever the new thing is, where they're controlling mutants and stuff. Speaking of which, them building up that darker, more evil storyline, they have a bunch of like mutant spies and stuff, and I couldn't tell. I was trying to figure out if they were just mutants trapped in this room, or if they did something to them, which I have to assume they did, because he talked about like, oh, we had him in there, and then when he was activated, it worked perfectly. So I assume all these people were either killed, just like the other guy was, like Thunderbird's friend, or they was like simply captured and then implanted with something that's like mentally and physically controlling them, because they were all just standing in a room. And I'm like, all right, that's not normal. That's almost robotic. So they're being taken over by something. And I just assume it's technological in nature, because otherwise, if it was a mutant, it would have to be an insanely powerful mutant controlling all these other mutants, or it would have to be multiple mutants doing it, and that just seems like a bit of a waste when they could just make up a technology that does it for them. So, as far as how everything's going to play out for Reed's storyline, and I assume that giving us a few more answers as to how Campbell got to the point where he's at right now anyway, that I'm certainly looking forward to. So I would love to know what you guys think we're going to get from Reed's father, and even the crazy stuff with the mutant spies, and what exactly is going on with them. If you guys still have your theories on that before we get the official answer, we'll love to read those as well. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.